New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Girls Behaving Metaphysically. Your hosts are two girls who believe that life is awesome, that laughter heals, and that it's possible to find deep spiritual insights in everyday experience.
Here come the girls. It's more than practical. Here come the girls. Way more than merely factual. If you want to know the secrets of a life that's free, listen to Girls Behaving Metaphysically. Listen to Girls Behaving Metaphysically.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Girls Behaving Metaphysically. She's Dr. Natasha Wilson.
And she's Robyn Olmsted.
I am. All day long.
And we're Girls Behaving Metaphysically.
We are. We like to keep each other on our toes. So, I just thought I'd switch it up a little bit. So we're so grateful to have you here today. Unfortunately, we are pre-recording, so we won't be able to answer you back in the chat, but chat with us anyway, because we'll look at it and we'll know you were here and it's good to see you. So, we're going to start the way we always do.
Yeah, we're going to pull a card.
Yep. Who's pulling?
I think you should pull, and then I'll pull the next one.
Okay. Well, I don't know why, but I opened the Eckhart Tolle cards, The Power of Now. I don't even know if I like these cards, but let's see. Let's see what we think of these cards. You tell me when, sister.
All right. When?
All right. So this one says, the wisdom of surrender.
Anything else?
Geez, I don't know if we could do a show on that. The wisdom of surrender. Let me read to you what it says on the back. It says, whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you had chosen it. Accept, then act. Always work with it, not against it. Make the present your friend and ally, not your opponent. This will miraculously transform your whole life. Yeah, I don't really like these cards.
Why, Robyn? Is it because you want to fight the present?
I don't know. I guess I'm having a hard time surrendering.
Yeah, surrendering to the present?
Just surrendering.
Yeah,
I mean, there's nothing but the present. So
right. So, but what's coming up that...
I'm just kidding. It was just a joke. I'm just kidding. I'm fine. Surrender is good. I love surrender.
We know it. You love surrender?
Yeah, I do.
That wasn't sarcastic or facetious.
No, it wasn't. I love surrender. I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
No sarcasm. I love surrender. I really do. I think that it's.
Tell us again.
No, for me, it's about transformation, and it's usually something that takes me beyond where I thought I could go. So for me, it's always kind of an invitation into a new portal. So, that doesn't mean I go through it easily and effortlessly in, the most highly metaphysical way. I mean, sometimes I go kicking and screaming, but it doesn't mean I don't like it at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's like once you're doing the surrender, because I normally fight first I fight, and then I'm exhausted, and then I surrender, and I'm like, oh, this is so nice.
So nice. Why didn't I do this first?
Why did I do this to begin with? Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, do you think that surrender is a learned behavior?
Do I think it's a learned behavior? I don't know. Do I think it's a learned? I think it's something that we learn to practice consciously, or that we can learn to practice consciously. Because I think at some point we all have to engage in surrender. It's just, do we do it from a place of consciousness and presence, or do we do it from, I guess, from a lack of consciousness, and we just fall into it, as you know, because we're tired? I think we can learn to practice it as a spiritual principle. I think we can do that, but I think ultimately we all learn it, because eventually we all die, which I think is the ultimate surrender, maybe.
I don't know. It depends on how we look at death. You know?
Well, we're surrendering the physical body no matter what. So we have to surrender that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's, I think for me, that's kind of part of the question is, it depends what we're surrendering to. I mean, I think we learn to surrender kind of on our, just in our normal journey of growing up, because as a kid, you don't get your way, or you don't get what you want, or, things like that. And it's, at some point you let it go, or you know what I mean? You fall asleep or something when you're a kid, right. But I think
exhausted yourself from your tantrum. Yeah.
I think in this bigger picture of metaphysical surrender, like you said in the beginning, you're surrendering to God, you're surrendering to the divine, you're surrendering to a higher power, whatever you call it. And that, I mean, I think, yes, like you said, it is, I think that's more of a conscious choice. And I do think I think, because I haven't really thought about it, I think it's it is kind of a learned behavior, because, depending upon how you were raised, but certainly, I don't think I was raised in that way where we just surrendered everything to God, However, I will say that, my grandmother, we all thought she was, had a thing with Jesus and God. Like she surrendered everything to God. And my mom, although she didn't do it, she was clearly connected to something, because we spent a lot of time. I mean, we were she was Jewish. My mom was Catholic. She became Jewish. Then we were Buddhist. Then we were New Thought. So something else was always going on, but it wasn't like a conscious pattern. Like, just surrender to the divine and allow that to, take you away. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I grew up with a mother who was also very much like surrender to God, and that version of God was like what I experience is like, I see like the old God of my consciousness, right? Like, when I think about surrendering at this point, I know that what I'm surrendering to is the highest expression of my soul, and that is God, right? I don't see God as something outside of me. So when I'm surrendering, I'm really surrendering like to myself ultimately. Like I'm surrendering. And so I'm really interested in that part of the card that says like something about like treat the present moment like you intended for, or you called it into existence. I feel like that's something that I literally was sitting with in a really deep way on yesterday. Because I have a person in my life that really causes, really activates big feelings in me. And in a lot of ways, I'm kind of stuck with this person. And I'm not talking about my husband, by the way, because I'm not, there's divorce. But like, I'm really kind of stuck with her for a couple, maybe decade, at least a decade. And so part of it, I was like, okay, if I ultimately know that every single thing that's happening in my life is about my soul evolving for the purpose that it came on this planet, like why is this person in my life?
Right.
And it's because it's triggering all of my anxiety. Like I can't even explain how anxious I was yesterday after like having to deal with this person. And I'm like, that's when I think this stuff gets real. So what I ended up doing was I sat with my journal, because I was like, I'm not going to have a glass of wine. I'm not going to have a glass of wine because I know that's not the answer. I know having a glass of wine is not the answer. So I sat with my journal and I was like, what are the things about her that really annoy, like really activate me the most? And then the question I asked myself is, where does this stuff exist in me? Mm-hmm. And what do I do with this? What do I do with what exists? I wish I had, do I have my journal right here? I'm just going to look because, yep, I do. Let me see exactly what I wrote. I won't say any names, but I'm just going to read what I wrote. It says, I just want to go away. I know the issue is with blank because blank has gotten under my skin. I don't like people trying to flex their power over me or against me. I know I need to release this from my life. I need to do the work of reflecting what this person's presence in my life means. Mm-hmm. Where in me does this person or these traits exist? How can I see, embrace, challenge, maybe even love that part of me, love myself into emotional freedom? So that's what I wrote yesterday. And then I had a glass of wine.
Excellent.
Because,
excellent.
Yeah.
It's the grapes of God. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there isn't. But I people who know me know, like, my nephew died via suicide last November. But look, I was not a person known as someone who even drinks. Like, I drink every now and then, sometimes socially, sometimes I wouldn't even drink socially. But I have to like be really honest with myself that my drinking of alcohol has increased since January, which is when I think the grief really started, the grief and the stuff really just started like hitting me. Like, yeah, he's really gone. Like, wow, and so, and wow, this is someone who I really love, and I really feel the absence of his physical presence in my life. And so so anyway, so I've been really mindful about my alcohol consumption. So when I'm saying like I had a glass of wine, that means more than it might seem on the surface. But back to the present moment. Yeah. Like, I am still learning. I know what it is. I said this to my friends yesterday because I was actually supposed to meet up with a friend, but my anxiety was so activated that I just couldn't do it. I just like, I can't. So that's why I came home and I did the writing. And I did start to realize, right? So there are parts of me that learned how to move through the world through manipulation, because this is one of the things I don't like about this person. And there was a time in my life that, yeah, that was how I moved through the world. It was so unconscious in me. And there would be a time where I would be really embarrassed to admit that. But I'm not. And I feel like that part of me needs my love and attention so that I'm not getting activated around it. And so I feel like that is how I make the present, what's happening in the present, an ally, as opposed to fighting against it. But it's not easy.
No, it's not. But I mean, when you were talking about it and you said something about, you know, you don't like people having control over you or power over you, kind of thing. I don't know how you said it. I mean, you know, I think, and then you just talked about it. So I think that's perfect. I mean, I think that's the point of exploration, like when it feels, you know, when it feels like that, and what that is, you know, what that brings up, and you know, and where that comes up for you, and how you use it, and all of that kind of, you know, that exploratory thing. And just for, you know, all intent and purposes, and it might not be any of that. I mean, it may be you looking at, oh wow, I've really healed this aspect of my life, or I've really come far from when I used to think this and now I think this. And you know, and now, isn't it great that even though she triggers me, I can also look at her and go, okay, this is more than this. We are more than this. I am more than this, you know, and know that it is there for a reason, and just, you know, continue to recenter, you know.
Yeah.
And trust to, you know, with the people that are in our life for a long time and the ones that we have no real control over, you know, based on our family relations and things, you know, it just went out of my head what I was going to say, because a person popped into my head that I could hold in the same place that you are holding that person. But yeah, I mean, they are there for a reason. They are there for a reason. And I think the other thing that's, for me anyway, my learning with the person in my life like that is that so many learnings, but on one level, it's trusting love and knowing that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing for the rest of your family, and for all involved, and anchoring and doing, and that nothing can change that. She can't change that. Even when she thinks she's gonna ruin your life, or do this or do that, and you're gonna learn not to do that, she can't. You are in control of you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It is a learning though.
Because I also realize when people feel very disempowered and they're unconscious about it, like often what they try to do is find a way to disempower other people. But the thing is, coming back to, I think that's the beauty about coming back into the, like, staying with the present, right? Not trying to push it or move it. I think it sort of naturally brings me back to the center and the truth about where the power does lie, right? My power is not about external, like trying to change the conditions externally. Like, it's an internal process, right? It's like internal. So instead of like focusing on this person in my life, I really turn the focus back in on, like, what needs my love and attention? What needs my love and attention?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Within me. Yeah. Yeah.
You take, and when you do that, you're taking back control. Yeah. So,
what are you doing, Robyn?
I'm reading I was going to read you the quote that you said you wanted out of the thing, which is,
okay.
Make the present your friend and ally and not your opponent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's such a, a nugget of information or wisdom to take into just any of those moments where you're up against that, to just breathe in and go, how can I make this my friend? And it can be challenging, and may not even feel like it's even possible in those moments. But when we surrender to it, I think that's when we sit in that uncomfortability, and we trust God. We trust that something's happening, even if we don't know what to do in that moment.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. Go, Robyn.
No, you go, Natasha.
Okay, because I was just about to just share another little example. Not little. To me, it's still whatever. It's an example. But like I said, yesterday I was supposed to meet with my friend, and we were, going to do, but the anxiety that I was experiencing, it was so front of my consciousness that normally what I would do is push through, right? But the anxiety was presenting itself. It was what was present for me. And I'm not saying that I surrendered to the anxiety, but instead of pushing myself and being oh, I'm gonna just push this to the side, and then I'm gonna go and just try to be there and talk to my friend and sort of ignore all this other stuff. I was no, friend, I've got to reschedule, because I really need to take care of this that's happening inside of me. And that was also, I think, for me, being with what was present. So instead of pushing through it, you know what I mean? And pretending like it wasn't there, so that I could, kind of show up in my friend, with my friends the way that I typically show up. I was like, friends, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
I deal with this.
And what a great demonstration, what a great example of taking care of yourself. And and I think on some level that is your that's when we're really surrendered, because we're listening to what God wants for us. What's God's true plan. So, and that's trusting that everything is in divine time, that everything happens for a reason. That's all of those things kind of broken down. So right now I'm feeling that it's time to surrender to a commercial, because
let's do it.
There's so much going on at New Thought Media Network that you want to know about. So stay tuned and check out what's happening, and we'll be right back here on New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Welcome to Girls Behaving Metaphysically. Your hosts are two girls who believe that life is awesome, that laughter heals, and that it's possible to find deep spiritual insights in everyday experience.
Here come the girls. It's more than practical. Here come the girls. Way more than merely factual. If you want to know the secrets of a life that's free, listen to Girls Behaving Metaphysically. Listen to Girls Behaving Metaphysically.
Hey, we're back.
I think we're muted.
Oh, I'm on. Okay, and you're on. So here we are. We're on. We are so on, baby. It's on. So we are Girls Behaving Metaphysically, and we're on. What else needs to be said? So I'm Robyn Rice Olmsted. This is Natasha Wilson, Dr. Natasha Wilson. And if you don't know, she is actually joining us from Australia. And yes. I am here in New Mexico, Albuquerque.
Yeah. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? New Mexico.
I'm in New Mexico today. But yeah, and I was thinking about this week, and I know, like, because Natasha is in Australia, she doesn't always keep up with everything that's going on in the States. But I was just thinking about how we do have, like, I don't know what we have, 70 days, 68 days, whatever it is we have till an election. And I was just wondering if you've had a chance to look at either one of the conventions.
I did. I watched some of both of them, not in its entirety. But like I got a lot of the cliff notes, I guess I should say. And I, remember that call with Marianne Williamson when I was like, I'm kind of on the fence about whether or not I'm even going to keep my American citizenship because I'm like a dual citizen now. And she was like, no, keep it. And, part of me was like, I'm really happy. I think that's like a really good decision to keep it.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the reasons I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm voting at, I do my absentee voting. And I've also just been feeling very much like I want to motivate the American expat community to make sure that we are sending in our absentee ballots, because I think, sometimes we can get a little disengaged from what's happening politically in the U.S. But I think what's happening politically in the U.S. is so exciting.
There's a lot of exciting things happening.
Yeah.
And I mean, I did too also watch some of both, more of one than the other. But mostly because the people were more interesting to me,
I hear you.
And I thought, but what I really wanted to talk about, wasn't so much the politics, but what was coming up for me is the stuff that goes on afterwards. Okay. And I don't know if you've paid any attention on your Facebook or anywhere, but on mine, I keep running across things like people commenting on Waltz's son getting all emotional.
Oh yeah, I saw something about that. Yeah. Which was, I saw that moment. It was a really beautiful moment.
It was a beautiful moment, right? It was an incredible moment. And and so one of the things that comes up for me that I felt, just being impartial, was I really felt like watching the Democratic convention. It seemed to me like consciously they had a meeting, they got a memo. Nobody was talking about Republicans. They just said Trump. They named Trump and talked about his policies, his past, his record, which I thought was great, and it was very inclusive. And I guess, the other thing that comes up for me is, it's like, not that nobody said anything, derogatory or anything, but it felt so much kinder in a way to me. I mean, and it felt like, I know this is an old quote, but it really felt like Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high. It just felt I don't know. I just, and the whole thing with Waltz's Son just really brings it up for me. Cause like you said, it was such a beautiful moment. And well, why? What's there to say about it?
You mean like, what is there negative to say about it?
Yeah. Like they're Ann Coulter posted on her X, like, you talk about weird. Something.
Girl, Ann Coulter is not well. Like, I don't know why anybody would care about what she says. She is not well. I'm not impartial. I'm also like unapologetically progressive in my politics. Like, it just is what it is. I never try to pretend like, look, I love people for the most part, and I don't care what people's political persuasions are. But when it comes to being clear about my own politics, I am unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically. So that being said, why I'm more curious and sort of like, why does Ann Coulter say things? I'm like, what is up with a world that produces someone so unwell?
Well, that's a different thing, but yes, I hear you and I agree. And I'm not, I too feel that I'm unapologetically who I am, and it's not so much about that. I'm just like, when I read those comments and then I read the people that I try not to, but
yeah,
I read the comments with people, either putting her down or agreeing with her and talking other, smack about other stuff. I go, why, what is it in our human nature that we have to go down this, slippery slope?
Name the slippery slope. What do you mean? Like, what's the slippery slope?
I mean, either just talking more smack, either people get in on it and they're like, well, not only that, the Democrats, la, 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 or the so-and-so, or, Hillary this and so-and-so that. And, it's like, why? And it's not even personal to any of those people. It's like, why? It's like people have to defend their positions and they get dirty about it.
Because I mean, honestly, I think because the human ego, it's how our egos evolved as a species. Our species evolved from a very fear-based, meaning survival. Like, it's in, like, the oldest part of our brain is super over concerned with survival, and it's very fear-based. And so that's just from an evolutionary perspective. And I think part of what we're all being called to do is to consciously evolve now, like, because that is getting us in so much trouble that it, like, we're threatening our own ecosystem, because the thing that has helped us survive and evolve is like out of control. It's just out of control. And I think you see that fear playing out with people like maybe Ann Coulter. I don't know her personally. Based on what I see, I can honestly, I wouldn't want to know someone like that personally. I know, like, spiritually, I'm called to know and see that everybody and everything is an emanation of the divine. Okay, fine. But I just think these are very fear-based individuals. I think they're just fear-based.
Yeah, and it's very painful. It feels painful to me. Like, he feels like a person, not a happy person.
Yeah.
And I think, I guess that's it. Part of the thing is, like, I feel pain, like the pain of the person as well as the pain of the post, as you know what I mean? So it's like, as a human, it's like, I don't know. I mean, it hurts. It's like, really, how do you, like I said, did say when we were watching the the convention, and I think it was when Kamala was giving her speech, and I said to my husband, I said, "Do you remember when all speeches sounded like this?" Because in my lifetime, there was a time when even you could have varying opinions and you could talk about different things, but there was still the commonality of representing the people and the country and the union of that. And it's at a place where it just feels like people are at such odds. It's like, it doesn't feel like a common goal. You know what I'm saying?
What do you mean? That the last part, it doesn't feel like it's a common goal.
It doesn't feel like a common goal in that, like, you know, I can honestly say that Trump is the first person in my lifetime where I didn't feel like he was my president. Even though I didn't agree with other presidents, like, you know, the Bushes or whoever, I still felt like they had my back, you know, even if, you know, like their policies may have been different, their politics were different, but it didn't feel like, it wasn't an us and them as much in that way. Does that make sense?
I hear it does make sense. It's an experience that is not familiar. It's like kind of foreign to me in some ways. Like you know, for some reason, I don't, you know, I'm still putting my head around this. I've never really felt like any political party or candidate was like for me. I never really felt American until I didn't live in America.
I understand that. Having lived in another country, yeah, I get that.
Yeah. I've definitely not felt the promise of America. Like, I can honestly say I've never felt it. Yeah. I don't care what their speeches were. And so I guess, I remember when Trump was elected, I remember I was working at a community-based mental health clinic. And I remember that day, like, all of my coworkers, it was just like, I don't know, like the heaviest, most depressing energy the day we came back, the day after the election. Because I remember, like, so many of my coworkers really thought Hillary Clinton was going to be the president that next morning, right? Or be elected president the next morning. I voted for Hillary, of course. But I just wasn't carrying that same amount of whatever it is. And then I just remembered that I remember saying to someone, yeah, my ancestors, they've survived a lot. And yeah, Trump is, you know, probably horrible in a lot of ways, but like, yo, we're survivors. And so I just, because again, I've never, and this is a part of what that conversation, I'm remembering again, the conversation with Marianne Williamson, I've never felt the promise of America, ever. So only now do I feel some of that.
Gotcha. I said, gotcha. Yeah, I think that's a common feeling for a lot of people. I think that there's a lot of people that have never felt the promise of America.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know. I mean, we could talk about it in many ways, shapes, and forms, you know. I mean, I think for some people that may be in your DNA, you know, that may be handed down from generations of that. Another thing, other people may be a disgruntled this or a moment where, you know, they just lost hope, you know, especially in times of the past, like wars and, you know, Vietnam and, you know, whatever that have gone on in history, you know, so it's an interesting thing. And it is, you know, I think for me, you know, as we wrap it, it doesn't, the politics piece isn't the important part, you know. It's in that it's the politics of love. And if you stand for love, if you stand for kindness, you know, then we have common ground, right?
Yeah.
You know, so we know that, you know, our views obviously do not reflect the views of all of New Thought Media Network, nor all of our listeners. And, you know, we all have our reasons and our experiences that lead us to this. And inevitably, we surrender, right? We surrender.
Look, we do surrender. And again, like, I think we have a long way to go to deliver on the promise of America. I've never lost hope, but I realize that my hope does not lie in governmental systems. And I think that's the thing that I definitely feel was handed down to me from my ancestors, that if there is going to be hope or a promise fulfilled, it's going to be with the people. Because our political systems, I don't care what they are, Republican, Democrat, whatever, there's a flaw in it inherently, and there's really a flaw in it because we have this, like, the amount that money is involved in our governmental system. And look, that is not where I don't feel that's where my hope lies. I don't think that's where the promise is going to be delivered based on who gets elected. I think the promise lies with the people. And I am an adult citizen of the universe. And so I know that if the world is going to shift, it's going to be based on me making choices from love.
That's so right. And we could, like I said, we could talk about this forever. So maybe that's next week's topic is, where does the hope lie? Where does the hope lie? Let us know what you think, what you'd like to hear us talk about. And we'll be back next week. We'll take this surrender card out into our week.
Let's do it.
We've got plenty of opportunities to surrender, and we know that there can only be good on the other end. So we will see you next week. We're so grateful that you were here. And that's it. Have a great week.
And bear with us, because we should be called girls. What did I say? Girls juggling schedules.
Yeah, we'll be back live at some point. We don't know when. But trust in the power. Okay.
We surrender.
We'll see you next week.
All right.